Her task today was to scout out the leader class bear. If the situation is good, she would try to defeat it, or rather try to escape as fast as possible. If it is bad, she'll still escape as fast as possible. So many high-level bears. Shiro thought, seeing the bears in the area. Bear LVL 20 empowered. Bear LVL 18 empowered. Bear LVL 20 empowered. Bear LVL 20 empowered. Most of the bears were close to or at LVL 20. She had to make sure that she doesn't draw their ire before she reached the obelisk. The reason as to why she needed to reach the obelisk today was due to the fact that the bears have almost conquered the entire floor. Staying longer wouldn't be advised. Zipping through the trees, Shiro made sure to try to be as quiet as possible. It was only after a few hours did she finally reach the edge of the forest. The obelisk stood in front of her, but so was the bear. Ice Elemental Bear LVL 20 Leader Class empowered. It only made it worse that it was an Ice Elemental Bear. Her Tier 1 Ice magic can't even be used to clean its ass. The Leader Class title will probably give it some ice resistance, not to mention the fact that it is an Ice Elemental Bear. Shiro thought while she looked at its hulking figure. Standing at 3 meters, the bear had void black fur with ice protruding out of its spine. The bear's eyes glowed blue as he looked at his guards. He had 5 LVL 20 bears around him and reached out for one of them. Bang! Hitting one of the bears, the leader class bear threw the corpse into his mouth as he began to chew. Did he just one-shot a LVL 20 empowered bear? Shiro thought, her eyes widened in shock. Sure, she may have heard how strong a leader class was, but seeing one was another matter in itself. I will definitely die if I try to face it with my ice magic. I need to leave using the obelisk. Shiro thought with a frown. Staying still in her place, she surveyed the bear's movements to check when it was most optimal for her to reach the obelisk. It took a few hours of observation, but she came to the conclusion that every moment was the most optimal as the goddamn bear didn't move a single bit. She tried to draw its attention by throwing rocks to create noise in another location, but the bear sent his underlings instead. Throwing the rock once more, Shiro decided to make a run for it when the bear had the least amount of company. Now, she thought, dashing in a beeline towards the obelisk. Her heart was pounding with nervousness since the leader class locked onto her almost instantly. Quickly making a block of ice to substitute as a shield, Shiro hoped it would block the bear's paw long enough for her to avoid it. The ice was nothing more than air as the paw easily shattered it. Jumping forwards, Shiro protected her head with her arms whilst she tried to roll. Boom! The ground shook since the paw missed her narrowly. However, it still sent her flying forwards, causing her to roll heavily across the ground. HP 680-1200. URG. Goddamn bear! Shiro muttered, feeling pain all over her body. The bear didn't give her a chance to recuperate since a second paw was already heading towards her. Thankfully, the force of the first attack sent her next to the obelisk. Obelisk teleportation. 3F. 2F. 1F. Immediately tapping 1F, Shiro saw her vision shift as she was teleported to the edge of a forest. Sighing in relief, Shiro laid back waiting for her HP to regenerate. When a person used the obelisk, it wouldn't teleport them to another obelisk. Rather, it teleported them to the edge of the floor, and she would need to make their way to the obelisk once more. Lucky for her, this meant that she was closer to the entrance of the dungeon. Taking a few pieces of mana stones she kept in her inventory for rations, Shiro chewed on them whilst she thought about the previous fight. His STR was higher than I thought. To shatter a tier 1 ice block like it was air means his STR is around the 200s or higher. A LVL 20 liter class bear should be roughly a LVL 30 to LVL 40 no class bear monster. Shiro thought when she realized that this meant the ice elemental bear was akin to a low mid-level D rank monster. No wonder he took half my HP with a missed attack. She thought in relief that the paw missed. If it hit, it would definitely kill her in one swat. This miss has been hit by a variety of attacks. I refuse to be killed like a fly. Shiro thought in her mind as she stood up. She wanted to leave the dungeon as soon as possible. The gate of a dungeon was as it says. A giant gate. It wasn't too hard to spot since a giant set of doors could be seen not too far from her. Walking towards the door, Shiro could see the engravings on the door itself. Bears, wolves, ice elementals. Just a typical E-rank dungeon, she muttered as the gates of a dungeon would give people some idea of what was inside the dungeon itself. Seeing movement on the doors, Shiro became vigilant as she quickly hid behind some trees and looked at the gate opening with narrowed eyes. A party of 5 appeared and they seemed to be novices since their equipment was rather sub-par. The aura they emitted gave Shiro no danger either, as she understands she could probably kill them easily in a 1v1. Crrrrrr. The doors slowly closed when the party of 5 entered. They were chatting without care as if they were having a picnic. Her attention was drawn away when she saw movement on the door. The initial carvings and images shifted as they morphed and the overall picture changed. Dungeon mutation. There was a low chance of a dungeon mutation happening since it would change the dungeon's fundamentals. Out of 100 dungeons, there would probably be 1 or 2 that would mutate. Right now, the dungeon was changing as an orange light appeared in the center of the forest. Dungeon mutation occurred. Current location: Fire Elementals, Charred Forest 1F. Rank E and D. Fire Elementals, lucky for me. Shiro thought with a smile, this meant her ice would actually do something. She could probably grind for a few levels and maybe challenge the ice elemental bear. Or rather a fire elemental bear due to the mutation. One question remained in her mind though. Why wasn't I affected, she thought. Could it be that I'm technically not a part of this dungeon, so if they beat the dungeon and the dungeon wipe occurs I should be safe from it? Let's not gamble for now. She thought as her hypothesis could be wrong and erase her ass from the face of this dungeon. The party of 5 seemed to be panicking too since they hit the door a few times but it refused to budge. Sneaking closer to them, Shiro wanted to see if she could gather some information about where she was and which time period. Peeking her head out slightly, she exposed her 2 azure eyes as she glanced over. The scout seemed to have noticed something since he shot an arrow towards where she was. Ah! Shiro was surprised at how they shot without warning. Quickly ducking, she looked at the arrow embedded into the tree. How rude! She thought, turning back to the group. Xin Feng LVL 15 Swordsman. Jin LVL 14 Archer. Claire LVL 15 Priest. Bonnie LVL 14 Assassin. Trevor LVL 18 Guardian. They took their positions with Trevor at the front, Xin Feng and Bonnie behind him. Jin and Claire were situated at the back. Trevor slammed his shield down as he shouted at her. Taunt failed. Ha-ya! You 5 want to kill this miss? Shiro shouted, jumping back to avoid another arrow. Sliding slightly on the ground, she looked up to see the Guardian charging towards her with his shield. Conjuring up a block of ice, she blocked the charge, causing the Guardian to be stunned for a moment. Rolling to her side, she avoided the stab of the assassin. Her instincts were kicking in since she wasn't the strongest person in her previous life for nothing. Mid-roll, she aimed her palm as a Tier 1 ice bullet shot towards the assassin. The assassin was hit, but her body flashed with a white light healing her up. Tisk! Shiro clicked her tongue before she retreated back into the forest. A group fight was disadvantageous for her right now. They were weaker than her if she fought them one-on-one, but this was currently a 5v1. She landed on a branch and quickly stabilized herself. Looking at the 5 who were vigilant against her, an idea entered her mind as she gave them a provocative sneer. This was supposed to be our graduation exam. We had to conquer the E-ranked dungeon before we leave. We were at the top of the class, so the teachers were confident in us beating the dungeon. Check your mini-maps. We don't want to be ambushed near the entrance. I called out to my longtime friends. I know. Jin, our scout, replied. Our group talked for a little while, but we froze when we felt the mana jump. Fang! This dungeon is mutating! Claire shouted out whilst me and Trevor tried to open the door but failed. We'll have to wait for the teachers to send in D-ranked members or higher to pry this door open, I said with a frown. The situation wasn't looking too great, but we could survive as long as we hold our ground and wait for rescue. Some would try to clear the dungeon, but we knew better. Mutated dungeons meant the monsters became stronger, so it would be suicidal to try to proceed without ample preparation. Only when there were no other options would a party try clear one unprepared. Jin seemed to have picked up a monster because he shot towards the location where the monster was. Ah! We heard a soft voice cry out in surprise as we became vigilant. Shiro LVL 16 Snow Girl. HP 1200 1200. MP 1950. A named monster. There were instances where a monster would be named. Not only would they give more loot, the EXP you would get for killing one increased by a lot as well. Even if she wasn't named, we would have needed to kill her anyways, since she could go get reinforcements which would endanger our safety. We looked at each other before we entered a formation the school taught us. Trevor used taunting shout, but the snow girl seemed to be unaffected. Jin launched another arrow to see if he could hit her. Dodging backwards, she opened her mouth as she started to talk, but all we heard were wordless echoes. Feng, I think she might be an intelligent monster, Trevor said with a frown. I think so as well, I replied. This would make the fight harder because she could very well lure us into a trap. Trevor charged towards her with shield bash in hopes of stunning her. However, what he hit was a block of ice as Bonnie quickly tried to stab her so Trevor would be safe. The snow girl rolled on her side before firing an ice bullet at Bonnie. Claire didn't dawdle as she quickly healed Bonnie up. Jesus, it's like fighting an instructor, Bonnie said with a frown whilst we looked at the snow girl standing on the branch. Isn't a snow girl supposed to be a weak E-rank monster? Trevor said, keeping his guard up. But this one is a named monster. We can't judge named monsters with the same logic, I replied as my friends nodded gravely. The snow girl seemed to pause for a moment before flashing a provocative sneer. She turned around and disappeared into the forest, leaving us here. Don't follow. Even if she does bring reinforcements, we need to wait for the teachers, I said as my friends agreed. Chasing after her would bring us more danger. They didn't follow, Shiro muttered, seeing the 5 not following her. And here I thought they were greenhorns. Seems like they know the more important basics, she said, sitting down on the branch. Current goals. Number 1, reach LVL 20. Number 2, leave this dungeon, Shiro muttered while a flaming fox jumped at her. She waved her hand as a spear of ice stabbed the fox through the mouth, killing it instantly. Since it was a fire attribute monster, it had a weakness towards ice and water, resulting in an instant kill. Weak, Shiro said, kicking her legs back and forth. Her initial goal was to lure the party in the forest so she could ambush them and capture them one by one. Now that was out of the window, she'll have to find out about her surroundings when she leaves the dungeon. Name, Shiro. Race, Snow Girl. Evolution criteria yet to be met. Level, 16-18. Class, Snow Girl, Nanomancer. HP, 1900-1900. MP, 3550-3550. STR, 32. VIT, 27 plus 15. INT, 55 plus 40. AGI, 50 plus 15. Dex, 17. Def, 10 plus 9. Unassigned points, 0 balance, $9,200. Equipment, tap to display. This was her stats after a day and a half of hard work. While the mutation brought higher level fire-based monsters, they were still under level for Shiro. Continuing to hunt these mobs would take forever to level up again. She muttered. She was currently chewing a few mana stones as the fire-attributed ones tasted like strawberry. Making her way to the obelisk, she saw the Guardian. Fire Spirit Golem LVL 15 Elite Class. The Fire Spirit Golem stood at roughly 2.5 meters tall. Made from dark brown rock, it had fire flaring out from every crack on its body. Elite Class should be a challenge, Shiro said while she chewed on the stones. Spreading her palms, electricity and metallic effects sparked as they started to twine together. My mana has reached enough for me to make use of my dagger creation. Though not as intended, it should work like a charm on you, Shiro said with a grin. 2 daggers formed in both her hands as they had neon blue veins traveling down the blade. The daggers took 1000 MP each, which would be fine if she was higher level. But right now, each dagger was just a little under a third of her total MP. Nano-crafted Ice Dagger Blue LVL 18. Plus 10 piercing. Plus 10 sharpness. Plus 10 ice element. Durability until stored MP runs out. MP 1000. Ray-ah. The golem cried out, causing molten rocks to separate from its back and shoot towards her. Sidestepping some of the rocks, Shiro frowned, seeing her HP drop a little due to the slight AoE area of effect. HP, 1750-1900. As the 2 large boulders shot towards her, Shiro twirled both daggers in her hands before throwing them towards the rocks. When the daggers hit the rocks, Shiro clenched her fist as ice started to spread outwards from the daggers. During her time hunting the fire element monsters back on the first floor, she had managed to combine both classes together in some instances, such as now. When crafting the dagger, Shiro inserted Tier 1 magic in the center, which made the dagger akin to a grenade that can be detonated at any moment she wants. The sudden contrast of temperature created through her ice caused the boulders to explode due to thermal shock. As the boulders exploded, Shiro flexed her fingers, causing the daggers to fly back into her hands as if they were magnetized. Running towards the golem with narrowed eyes, she threw one of her daggers at the face. Seemingly understanding the danger the daggers possess, the golem made a small rock to counter the dagger. Shiro took its reaction into account as her second dagger shot towards the leg. Stabbing the leg of the golem, Shiro didn't combust the dagger but instead used it as a foothold. Jumping up, she grabbed the first dagger, then twisted her body before she stabbed it into the golem's chest. Combusting both daggers, the force sent the golem stumbling backwards as Shiro landed lightly. She quickly scanned her own HP and MP to see how they were holding up. HP, 1450-1900. MP, 1150-3550. Shiro frowned at the damage she took to her HP, since just being near fire caused her HP to drop a little every second. It was one of the negatives due to her being a snow girl. Seeing the golem stand once again, albeit with visible damage on its body, Shiro couldn't help but lament the fact that she can't see its HP. Flicking her wrist, both daggers reappeared in her hands. MP 490-1000 MP 410-1000. She sighed slightly at the remaining MP in each of her daggers but decided to make do for now. The golem stood up tall as it brought its arms above its head. Slamming both arms down, Shiro quickly jumped upwards to avoid the tremors as she threw the daggers at the golem's arm joints. The golem's arms solidified, causing the daggers to bounce off. Opening its mouth, fire element surged towards it and a ball of fire was being created. "Alright. A breath attack," Shiro said as she remembered most elemental type elite class or higher monsters were capable of breathing out a breath of their respective elements. Quickly utilizing the float passive of snow girls, she avoided the fire breath. Her breathing fluctuated due to her being so close to the fire. Conjuring up some icy mist to cool her down, Shiro panted while she landed hard on the ground. HP 650-1900 MP 700-3550. Tisk. She clicked her tongue as she stood up. The golem clamped its mouth shut whilst it glared at her. She walked towards the golem before slowly increasing her speed into a full-on sprint. With her AGI reaching 65 points, she was 3 times as fast as an average human adult. The daggers unhinged themselves as Shiro caught them in mid-air. Turning her body without slowing down a single bit, she threw the daggers back into the face of the golem with increased momentum. Making 3 ice spears, she threw 2 which locked down on the golem's legs whilst the last one hit the cranium. The force caused the golem to open its mouth as the 2 daggers entered inside. "Goodbye," Shiro grinned as she detonated the daggers. This time she made sure the daggers would use every last drop of MP stored inside them to give the golem a devastating blow. Boom! The explosion of ice shot into the air, causing Shiro to whistle at the impact. The fire that came from the golem died down, signaling her about the golem's death. "Hee hee hee, loot loot my loot," she sung lightly as she jogged towards the body of the golem. Rummaging through the rocks, she found the mana stone the size of 2 fingers. Lifting the stone above her face, she peered through the stone as it seemed like the stone held a ball of fire inside. Unable to contain her grin, she threw the stone into her mouth and smiled blissfully at the taste. The stone had a sweet outer shell with the taste of oranges. Once you get past the outer shell, a jelly-like inner area welcomed her as a burst of flavor exploded in her mouth. Giggling slightly, Shiro enjoyed the mana stone slowly whilst she collected her bounty. Fire Giant's Shield Green LVL 15. Fire Spirit's Ring Blue LVL 15. Fire Giant's Greaves Green LVL 15. Fire Giant's Guard Green LVL 15. Fire Giant's Titanus Cleaver Blue LVL 15. Fire Source Stone X10. Fire Stone Dust X42. Fire Giant Essence X1. Red Gem X3. $2,000. Oh my, 3 green drops and 2 blue drops. You are one fat sheep, big guy, Shiro said, looking at where the golem once stood. She didn't need the shield, so she recycled that. Inspecting the other pieces, she couldn't help but grin when she saw the ring. Fire Spirit's Ring Blue LVL 15, Ring. Plus 20 int. Plus 10 def. Skill Fire Spirit Blessing. Fire Spirit Blessing activate to receive a 20% increase to magic damage and 20% fire damage. Duration 20 seconds. Cool down 2 minutes. Fire Giant's Greaves Green LVL 15, Legs. Plus 15 def. Plus 10 STR minus 15 AGI. Fire Giant's Guard Green LVL 15 Arms. Plus 10 STR plus 5 Dex. Minus 5 AGI. Fire Giant's Titanus Cleaver Blue LVL 15 Great Sword. Requirements 40 STR plus 20 Sharpness. Plus 15 Fire Element. Plus 5 Ignore Defense. Plus 5 Heavy Damage. Minus 20 AGI. Minus 5 Attack Speed. Skill Fire Giant Empowerment. Fire Giant Empowerment, plus 100% Strength, plus 50% Damage, minus 80% Speed. Duration 1 minute. Cooldown 5 minutes. Everything apart from the ring is pretty much unusable for me. Shiro muttered. Recycling everything except for the ring and great sword since the sword itself may have some uses later, she equipped the ring and checked her stats. Name, Shiro. Race, Snow Girl. Evolution criteria yet to be met. Level, 18-19. Class, Snow Girl, Nanomancer, HP, 650-2050. MP, 300-4550. STR, 32. VIT, 2730 plus 15. Int, 55 plus 60. AGI, 50 plus 15. Dex, 1719. Def, 10 plus 19. Unassigned points, 50. Balance, $11,200. Equipment, tap to display. One more level and then I'll reach LVL 20. I wonder what's the class up after Snow Girl. She muttered as she reached out for the obelisk. Teleporting back to the second floor, what was a snow forest now became a scenery of fire and burnt trees. I'm back, Miss Me, Shiro called out with a smile. There was a bear in front of her and it was a LVL 7 empowered fire bear. Sending out a single ice spear, she killed the bear easily. Collecting the corpse of another bear, Shiro stretched her body since she had finally reached the first minor turning point. LVL 20. Name, Shiro. Race, Snow Girl. Evolution criteria yet to be met. Level, 20. Class, Snow Girl Plus, Nanomancer. HP, 2550-2550. MP, 4550. STR, 3235. VIT, 30 plus 25. Int, 55 plus 60. AGI, 50 plus 15. Dex, 1921. Def, 10 plus 27. Unassigned points, 50. Balance, $14,600. Equipment. Helmet. Fire Spirit Crown. Fire Spirit Crown Green LVL 10. Plus 10 int. Shoulder. Fire Spirit Guards. Fire Spirit Guards Green LVL 10. Plus 10 int. Plus 5 def. Chest. Fire Spirit Dress. Fire Spirit Dress Green LVL 15. Plus 20 int. Plus 10 VIT. Arms. Empowered Flame Bear Paw Guard. Empowered Flame Bear Paw Guard Green LVL 15. Plus 10 def. Plus 15 VIT. Legs. NA Feet. Fire Spirit Boots. Fire Spirit Boots Green LVL 10. Plus 15 AGI. Plus 5 int. Ring. Fire Spirit's Ring. Fire Spirit's Ring Blue LVL 15. Plus 20 int. Plus 10 def. Skill. Fire Spirit Blessing. Fire Spirit Blessing activate to receive a 20% increase to magic damage and 20% fire damage. Duration 20 seconds. Cooldown 2 minutes. Pressing the end next to her Snow Girl class, she saw the current branches that were open to her. Snow Girl. Class up choices. A. Ice Girl. B. Snow Girl. C. Snow Spirit. When a class has a next to it, it means having the same class but with added benefits. It is something similar to a prestige. The more you stay on the same class, the more benefits you get. The highest amount of S you can get on a class is 5S. With more S, the subsequent class ups would also increase in the potential one would have. A snow woman derived from a 5 snow girl would be much more powerful than a normal snow woman. Naturally, the class up conditions for getting a would get harder the more S you choose. Therefore, not many would persist until 5S, as the conditions may be downright suicidal. Yet some would still choose this option due to the fact that you wouldn't lose any of the skills you have already learned and instead get more skills added onto your arsenal. An example of this would be advancing from a swordsman to a shield knight. You would lose some of your sword skills but in return gain a set of skills to better utilize your sword and shield together. However, if they chose to class up to a swordsman, their already existing skills would gain a boost to their power. Ice Girl. Further attuning yourself to the power of ice, you gain a substantial boost to all ice-related skills. Plus 100% ice damage. Plus 75% fire vulnerability. Bonus skills. Tier 2 Ice Magic, Heart of Ice, Ice Movement. Snow Girl. Remaining on the Snow Girl class, you increase your fundamental skills. Plus 50% ice damage. Minus 25% fire vulnerability. Bonus skills. Tier 2 Ice Magic, Snow Magic Skill Line, Faded Snow Movement, Cold Aura. Snow Spirit. You chose to forsake your physical form as you target the spiritual. Plus physical damage nullification. Plus 100% weakness to Holy Magic, Fire Magic, Soul Magic, Daylight. Bonus skills. Tier 1 Soul Magic, Tier 2 Ice Magic, Cold Aura, Passive Flight, Race Change. Snow Girl, Spirit. Shiro immediately struck Snow Spirit off her choice of class up paths. She wanted to keep her physical body okay, she didn't want to be evaporated the moment she left the dungeon. This left only two choices: Ice Girl and Snow Girl. Ice Girl would give her more ice magic damage but would also increase her weaknesses. However, if she chose to class up into a Snow Girl, the class up requirements would also increase. More fun for me. Shiro chuckled as she tapped Snow Girl. The other options disappeared as it locked onto the class. Snow Girl. Class up requirements. Conquer E rank dungeon solo. D rank Mana Stone. Heavy check mark 100 int.